This person has begun to better understand their own feeling, and that is exactly why something inside them can no longer stay in the same place. What before was confusion, silence, escape, or even denial has now begun to gain a name, weight, and truth in the heart. Perhaps you have felt this change without being able to explain it. Perhaps in recent days, something has touched your intuition, as if a part of you knew that something important is moving inside this person. And I am going to tell you something with all affection. When someone begins to understand what they truly feel, the heart can no longer keep pretending for long. The angels show that there is a clarity being born, still timid, but real. And this clarity has everything to do with you. What happens is that for a long time, this person tried to organize their own feelings in the wrong way. They tried to rationalize what was emotional, tried to hide what was strong, tried to treat as fleeting that which was already creating roots inside, except that a moment comes when the soul stops accepting excuses. A moment comes when absence weighs more than pride, when the memory speaks louder than distraction, when the heart becomes incapable of sustaining the lie that it was nothing major. And it is here that this message begins to gain strength, because the angels are showing that this person is entering exactly into this phase. In my view, this is one of the most delicate and truest moments within a connection, because understanding one's own feeling is not something light for someone who spent a lot of time trying to flee from it. Sometimes the person does not distance themselves because they don't feel. Sometimes they distance themselves precisely because they feel more than they would like, more than they can control, more than they know how to deal with. And when they finally perceive this, everything inside them begins to reorganize. It is as if old emotions returned with another strength, as if details that seemed small started to make much more sense. If you are listening to this with a tight heart, try to stay with me until the end, because what I'm going to reveal to you now can change the way you view this person's silence. The angels show memories arising with more intensity, not loose memories, but memories that carry feeling, the way you said something simple, a care that perhaps this person did not value at the time, a conversation that left a mark, a gesture of presence, a sensation of peace that they only perceived after they lost it. It is impressive how the human heart many times only understands the depth of certain things when it misses them. And this person has begun to miss not only your presence, but the way you made everything seem truer, warmer, more alive. Before we continue, write this mantra in the comments. What is true finds clarity in the right time. And write it with faith, because when we write, it seems like the heart agrees with that which heaven is releasing. This person has begun to perceive that what they feel for you no longer fits inside the superficial explanations they had been repeating to themselves. They can no longer call habit what remains alive. They can no longer call attachment what touches so deep. They can no longer call coincidence that which insists on returning to the thought, to the chest, to the longing, and even to the dreams. And do you know what I think is important to say here? Many people take time to understand their own feeling because they are afraid of what that demands afterward. Because understanding brings responsibility. Understanding forces one to recognize, to review choices, to face the past, to deal with the possibility of having erred with someone important. And the angels show that this person is beginning to face exactly that. Perhaps you have wondered many times if they felt something for real. Perhaps you looked at their behavior and thought, if they felt it, they would have acted differently. I understand that thought. A lot of people think that way. But the angels ask you to look deeper. Feeling and knowing how to deal with what you feel are completely different things. There are people who love and stay silent, people who care and get confused, people who have a strong bond but do not possess emotional maturity to sustain the weight of that bond at the right moment. This does not erase what they made you feel. It does not erase what hurt. But it explains a lot of things, and today, heaven wants precisely to cast light upon this explanation. The angels show that this person has been living moments of silent comparison. They compare what they felt with you with other connections. They compare the peace they had near you with the emptiness they felt far away. They compare the truth of your presence with the superficiality of other situations. And little by little, they are understanding that the feeling for you was not common. It wasn't just desire. It wasn't just curiosity. It wasn't just neediness. It had depth. It had a bond. It had something that stirred with more sensitive parts of the soul. And now that this is becoming clear, this person's awareness can no longer return to the point before. Do you know what I think when I hear a message like this? I think that there are feelings that do not shout at the beginning, but mature in silence. And when they mature, they completely change the way the person views everything. Because the problem wasn't lack of feeling. The problem was lack of understanding about it, except that this has begun to change. And when it changes, even the person's way of remembering you changes too. They begin to remember not only what they lived, but what they lost, what they let slip away, what they could have built if they had had more courage, more clarity, more truth at that time. The angels show that there is a regret being born, even if this person doesn't speak of it to anyone. It is a regret that doesn't come only from the distance, but from the perception that you were important in a rare way, that your presence offered something that is not found easily, that your affection, your sensitivity, your energy, and even your way of waiting or believing had a value that only now is being understood. And this weighs. It weighs because the truth arrives slowly, but when it arrives, it occupies everything. Now I want to ask you for something simple but powerful. Write 777 in the comments as an act of agreement with this message and as a request for spiritual clarity over that which is being revealed. And if this message is helping you for real, if you feel peace, consolation or confirmation in your heart, you can support this channel through the donation QR code that appears in the video or through the donation link that is in the description and in the pinned comment. This gesture of affection helps this word to continue reaching more people who also need a direction today. The angels show that this person is being led to look inside with more honesty. There are nights when they stay in silence and perceive that you still occupy an important place. There are moments when they try to convince themselves of something else, but deep down they feel they can no longer deny what the heart repeats. And when that happens, the whole life seems to slow down inside, because understanding one's own feelings stirs with pride, with fear, with plans the person had created so they wouldn't need to go back. That is why there is so much internal struggle at this moment. Not because you do not matter, but precisely because you matter too much. I know that, for someone who is waiting for some attitude, this might seem little. I know that hearing that the person is understanding what they feel does not immediately resolve the longing, the anxiety or the doubt. But pay attention to this. Every true attitude begins in an internal recognition. Before the approach comes awareness. Before courage comes clarity. Before someone says, "I feel," there is a silent process in which this truth stops being denied. And the angels are showing exactly this process happening now. There is a part of you that must have already grown tired of waiting for any change. Perhaps you have even tried to move on emotionally. Perhaps you protected yourself, and I am going to be sincere with you. Protecting the heart is also wisdom. You do not need to hurt yourself to prove love. You do not need to diminish yourself to keep a connection alive. Except that this message doesn't come to ask you to annul yourself. It comes to show that there is a real movement happening in this person's heart, and that this movement is not small. It is an emotional awakening. The angels show that this person has begun to review old conversations, past decisions, cold responses, confused distances, and even lost opportunities. Not like someone who only wants to remember, but like someone who is trying to understand where they let something important slip away. And this internal review has been more intense than it seems, because when someone perceives that the problem was never lack of feeling, but inability to welcome it, the truth becomes difficult to ignore. This person might even continue in silence for a while longer, but inside, they are no longer in the same place. If you are not subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe and stay with us. Here, there is always a word of faith for when the heart needs to breathe. And I believe that no one should cross certain days without a message of consolation. The angels want you to understand also that this person has begun to perceive the impact that your absence caused. Before, perhaps they thought they could manage it, thought that it was enough to distract themselves, occupy the mind, change the subject, follow the routine. But it didn't work as they imagined, because certain connections do not dissolve just because the person tries to ignore them. And your presence left marks that do not come off easily. This has made this person recognize that the feeling was not shallow. It was stronger, more sensitive, truer than they wanted to admit. There is one more important thing here. The angels show that this person began to better understand their own feeling precisely because they began to miss you with more sincerity. And truly missing is not just thinking. It is perceiving absence in small things. It is feeling an emptiness after certain hours of the day. It is remembering someone when something good or difficult happens. It is feeling a will to share what they are living with that specific person. It is noticing that even with time passing, the heart continues returning to the same name, the same energy, the same memory. This is already happening. Tell me something, even if only inside yourself. Did you also feel, at some recent moment, that this person was closer in thought? Because many times, before a change happens on the visible plane, it already begins to be perceived in the spiritual, in the intuition, in the sensation, in the dream, in the sudden tightness of the chest. And the angels show that there is a silent exchange happening. You might have felt this without understanding where it came from. Now, take a deep breath for an instant. Place your hand on your heart and try to receive this part of the message with calmness. The fact that this person is understanding their own feeling better does not mean that everything will happen at the speed of your anxiety, but it means that their heart has already begun to come out of denial. And this, spiritually, is a very important step, because whoever comes out of denial begins to approach the truth, and the truth usually prepares movements that before seemed impossible. The angels show that there is fear there, fear of approaching, fear of being too late, fear of discovering that you no longer feel the same, fear of needing to speak what they could never speak, fear of assuming the depth of that which they tried to diminish. But now this fear is sharing space with a stronger awareness. And in my view, when awareness begins to win over fear, life prepares some type of answer. Write a list in the comments of people, including yourself, whom you would like to forgive. Visualize each of them, send love and say, "I forgive you and I release you. May peace be with you." Feel the lightness that this brings. Sometimes releasing the heart is what allows us to see with more clarity what really deserves to remain. The angels show that this person is not only understanding what they feel, they are understanding also the value of what they lived with you. And this changes everything, because one thing is to feel, another thing is to understand the value of that feeling. When someone recognizes value, they recognize also the loss, the error, the absence, the importance of what they had in their hands. And it is exactly there that many internal decisions begin to be made. Perhaps still without words, perhaps still without visible attitude, but already with weight enough to stir the direction of the story. If you are listening to this at night, in the silence of your room, trying to be strong on the outside and organized on the inside, I want you to feel that this message arrived to embrace you. Not everything that is in progress can be seen now. There are processes that God allows to mature far from the eyes, so that, when they come to light, they bring more truth. And I believe that this is one of those situations. It is not about haste, it is about real understanding. The angels also show that this person began to perceive how much your energy made a difference, your way of welcoming, your calm presence, your way of caring, your look, your listening, your heart. There are people who only understand the value of a presence when they experience the lack of it on difficult days, and this person has begun to cross this type of perception. At certain moments they feel a will to go back in time. In others, they feel a need to find a way to approach again, even if they don't know how. The important thing is that the feeling stopped being a mist and began to take form. And I want to tell you something that I consider very important. Do not confuse delay with non-existence. There is feeling that takes time to mature in the heart of someone who didn't know how to name it early. This does not mean that you should stop your life. It does not mean that you need to live as a function of this. It means only that sometimes the other understands late that which your soul already perceived a long time ago. And the angels are confirming that this late understanding has begun. The angels are sending you a special sign. Your lucky number for today is 8. Write in the comments, "I receive the energy of the angels. My lucky number is 8, and I receive this message with faith." The number 8 speaks of strength, maturation, turnaround, and recognition of that which has value. There is something very important happening on the spiritual plane between you two, a reorganization of perception. You are being invited to view this story with more serenity, and this person is being led to face what they feel with more sincerity. This does not mean that everything is resolved. It means that the truth has begun to walk. And when the truth begins to walk, it pushes what was still for a long time. The angels show that this person no longer finds peace in the old justifications. The heart began to demand coherence, began to require honesty, began to ask for a more mature response to that which it feels. And this usually stirs deeply with whoever spent a lot of time hiding behind distractions, pride, or emotional confusion. It might be that you still see silence on the outside, but on the inside, there is much movement. Share this video with 2 dear people who need this message today. And, if you can, also leave a prayer for your guardian angel in the comments. There is something very beautiful when several people unite in faith in the same space. Heaven wants you to leave this message with a clear understanding. You were not imagining this connection. You were not exaggerating what you felt. There was, yes, something important being lived, and now this person has begun to understand this with more depth. Perhaps late, perhaps after errors, perhaps after distance, but it began. And this awareness has power to change directions, open conversations, and break resistances. Continue caring for your heart, continue seeking peace, continue strengthening yourself in God. Because regardless of what happens in the next steps, every truth that arrives brings also liberation. Either it brings closer what is real, or it reveals what needs to be ended with dignity. But the angels show that in this case, there is a feeling that did not disappear. There is a perception that matured. There is a heart that began to come out of confusion. And this is not small. If this message spoke to you, write in the comments. What is true flourishes in the right time. Share your experience, like this video, and subscribe to the channel for more messages like this. Thank you for being here with me. May God deeply bless your life, calm your heart, and give you clarity to recognize everything that truly comes from the light. Until the next video.